You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Extreme Weight Loss After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Extreme Weight Loss After Show.
I have to kind of let the song come in.
I'm like, play it.
I know. Thank you, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. My name is Lauren Mendoza, and I'm here with my lovely co-host,
Lina Green.
Hi, Lina.
Hello.
And we are doing Season 3, Episode 4 of Extreme Weight Loss. Oh, there it is. Perfect timing.
When you're not strong.
And this song is just perfect for tonight's episode because this is the very first couple episode.
Well, couples that are together, like married, because we had the
Married
two sister.
couples. Oh, right.
That's not a couple,
Yes.
I guess.
No, I don't say I am in a couple with my sister
Okay, thank
at
you.
all.
Thank you.
So this episode, like I said, we have our first couple, Jason and Rachel. They're in their mid-30s. And I mean, right in the beginning, when you see them introduce themselves, they're sad. They're emotional. They look like they're just fighting tears. They're fighting tears pretty much throughout the entire first half of this episode.
Yeah, they've had a pretty rocky relationship up to now, and so this is definitely going to test, put a test to the relationship, and it does. We see that throughout this whole episode, what's going on, the ups and downs. So
yeah, they have 2 kids, twins that are 5-year-olds, and they talk about their marriage and about the difficulties that they've had leading up to this point and how a lot of their weight gain happened in the earlier years of their marriage.
Yes.
I think Rachel, she talks about they actually had been separated for a time and she reconnected with her old boyfriend, and a lot of that created some guilt.
Yeah.
And that even though they've gotten past that, they've really been pushing, they've really been struggling in their relationship.
Yeah.
And then you see Jason, who just has no confidence
he just,
whatsoever.
seems just broken down and defeated from the beginning. Which it turns around, but it's a hard process. And Chris goes over that. It pounds into his head that you can do this.
Yeah.
It's just such a hard process with him.
Well, it's interesting because he talks about his great job that he has. He talks about his gorgeous wife. He talks about his 2 kids. Says he basically has the perfect life. And he says that the one thing that he just cannot get a hold of is his weight, is controlling his weight, is getting that down, getting the nutrition down, getting the exercise routine.
And his confidence, he said that he wasn't able to take off his shirt in front of his wife. He locks the door when he's finna get in the shower. Like, you're married.
I'm married. And when he said that, when he was like, I can't take off my shirt in front of my wife, I mean, automatically, I'm sure we were all thinking like, come on, how do you get intimate? Like, how do you, well, that's gotta affect your sex life. And even if you're able to go forward and do that, it's hard. And I think you have this, you're self-conscious, and nobody wants to be married, be in a relationship, and be intimate with somebody having, those insecurities. And that broke my heart because he not only just wasn't confident in himself, he also wasn't comfortable enough with his own wife.
Yeah.
And that's frightening. Like, that's just sad, and just, I would never wish that on anybody.
It's pretty hard to be in a relationship. They've been in it for over 7 years, and for him not to be that comfortable with his wife.
Or to get to that point where you were comfortable and now I'm not going to take off my shirt in front of you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's heartbreaking. So we find out that Rachel was actually the one that wrote a letter to Chris. And I thought it was interesting how they surprised them. They were in bed, sleeping supposedly, but I don't know how you could sleep with a camera in your bedroom.
The camera wasn't there, though. We don't know the camera's there.
A cameraman, not just a camera, but a cameraman. So they get a phone call. Rachel answers, and she finds out that it's Chris. And of course, they're over the moon to hear that they've been selected to be a part of the show. But they also are given their very first challenge.
And that's interesting because this is the first time that we've seen him do this, where they get a challenge right off the bat.
Right.
So that really pulled me into. I'm like, ooh, what's gonna happen?
I know. Can they do it?
Yes. And what was the challenge? 2 pounds?
The challenge was to lose 2 pounds in pretty much 6 hours. He basically said, I'm at the airport. My flight leaves at this time. If you're going to join me, you need to have lost and burned 7,000 calories by that time. So it also meant they needed to pack. They needed to get someone to watch their children and get themselves to the gym, which they did. And it was really scary. I mean, we saw Jason really struggle with this weight loss. He's constantly looking at his calorie counter.
Saying it was broke, saying it's not working.
And he's like asking Rachel, what did you say? How is this possible? Like he was definitely competitive.
The competition between those two, like the own back and forth competition.
But I would say though, it was the competition on his end. I don't feel like she was competing with him.
I feel like she was.
You think so?
I feel like she was. I feel like she was trying to prove something to herself as well as him, and trying to motivate him too. So it's like there was competition there.
Yeah. I almost just think that she just kind of kept going, and she said in the beginning that she feels like she could do this.
Yeah.
But she didn't feel like he could.
Yeah.
And I think I would agree with her, seeing the way that he was so insecure, had no confidence. I could see where she would think, you know what, the way he is right now, just emotionally, mentally, I don't think he could have done it either. I think he really needed this. Yeah. So he really struggles. He almost gives up, but we see them just going to the very last minute, and they hit they hit 7,000, and then they go over by like 10 calories.
They just jump off. I think she goes over, and he's like, okay,
let's go. We're done. Yeah, let's get off these things. And he can barely walk. They meet Chris, and they get on a plane, and they go to LA, and we see their very first weigh-in on those fantastic scales that we hate
the freight
so
scales
much. But before they weigh in, I thought it was interesting. Chris always asks the contestants, what do they really want outside of this weight loss journey? What's their other goal?
Yeah.
And Rachel just knew right away. She's like, I want to do one of those crazy mud runs with all those fun obstacles. Then he goes to ask Jason, and Jason doesn't even have an answer.
He just seemed to be like tagging along. And it seemed like that at first. Like he just went because his wife was doing it. He wanted to be supportive.
Right.
But I'm glad.
Which we find out the day after. But they weigh in. So Jason's at 362.
Yes.
And Rachel is at 290. And she breaks down, of course, because she says that that's heavier than she was when she was pregnant with her twins. You know, which, I mean, yeah. It's
kind of unbelievable to be.
I think it's hard for her because she probably was obviously at her heaviest when she was with her twins. And she's not pregnant with twins any longer. They're 5 years old. 5 years have passed.
And she said she had a goal of losing all the weight before they turned 1.
Yeah.
And now they're 5, so that was heartbreaking
she went
for her.
Past it, yeah. So it was definitely tough, and we continue to see Jason struggle. And the second day, he pulls Chris aside and has a talk with him, and basically admits that he doesn't want to do this. That this was Rachel's idea. He wants to make her happy. I think we see him constantly saying he wants to do this for her. He definitely is competitive because he also says, if she's going to do this, I don't want to be, the big husband that's married to this like skinny woman. Like she deserves somebody that looks. I feel like it just goes back to what he's saying. Like he wants to do this for her because, and he doesn't want to be left behind, but not really for himself.
And he needs to do it for himself. And even she says that he needs to do it for himself. It's not going to work him trying to do it for her. He doesn't want to get left behind. And that's where the struggle comes in. That's where he mentally messes himself up.
Yeah.
We see a lot of that.
Yeah. And so he admits that he doesn't want to do it. And I actually was wondering if he was going to stop and like she was going to go on.
I had my doubts at first, but I kind of knew they were in it for the long haul together.
Yeah.
Like I could still see that they were close and they were going to get through this together.
Yeah. Like I kept thinking maybe he really wants it, but he just doesn't know that he wants it. Like, or he just can't admit it.
Or something.
He's scared of it.
It seemed like it was too far, because it did seem like that much weight. I can't lose 150 pounds. Like, that's a lot of weight to have to lose together.
Yeah.
And so...
And he didn't have the confidence. He didn't think he could do it. And I think when you so strongly believe that you can't accomplish something, you don't even want to make that attempt, because then when you fail, or if you fail, you just feel that much worse about yourself. And I think that was what might have been holding him back.
Yeah, but I feel like he was trying to give up before he even attempted.
Exactly. Because he was scared.
Yeah. Chris got him rewired.
Got him on the beach, kicking his butt, and he's like punching and punching. And
what is Chris's thing with the beach? Having them start off
they
on
always
the
have
beach?
to start on the beach. It's LA.
That's so
These people are
LA.
coming from who knows where. They don't get the beach very often.
Beach. That's nice.
Let's take them to the ocean. Yeah, it is really nice. So he's, there, and he's saying, like, Chris is kind of getting it out of him, and he just admits, he's like, I can't do this. And he's like, he's admitting that he hates himself. Like, I think he says that.
Yeah, he does.
He's like, I hate myself. It's like awful. Like, and he says it almost just unintentionally. Like, it just freely came out of it. Like, it was
tired,
awful.
and it was like, it came out of just wanting to give up at that point and just break down. I hate myself. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So sad to see.
But then, he breaks down, and Rachel came up to him at the beach and put her arms around him, told him how proud she was of him. And I think that was a really defining moment. That was like kind of the first step in somebody else just maybe building him up a little bit, just to give him a little bit more confidence, go the next step. And then you got to work on it from there. So.
Yeah, you see them getting closer inch by inch and inch. Because it seemed like at first they were kind of
like
far.
I wasn't, when I first saw them, I wasn't even thinking about their weight loss. I was thinking about their marriage.
Yeah.
I was more concerned about whether or not they could stay married first.
Because when they said they went through a really rough patch, and there's tears in Rachel's eyes, you could tell there was a lot going on, not just with the weight, but mentally, physically, marriage, everything.
You could tell they weren't happy. Yeah. They just weren't happy. That's what it looked like. So then we get to day 7, and Chris sends them home completely without him. We've seen in the previous episodes that he goes home with them for a while, stays with them, but this time he's not going with them. So they go home alone. However, they pull up and they see their nicely renovated home gym.
3 screens. Who needs 3 flat screen TVs mounted to the wall in a gym?
I know, right? So you can bounce to the elliptical.
What are you doing?
And to the, I don't know. But I'm sorry, this was the best gym I think that they've made.
Fancy.
You're not like in the living room.
Yeah.
You don't have your bed over there.
I mean, they had a huge house.
It's like a garage, a nice big one, very spacious.
Yeah.
It really resembled a small gym to me.
Did.
So they had that, which was absolutely fantastic. And Chris gives them the goal to lose in the first 90 days to lose a total of 150 pounds together.
Yes.
And they could divide that however they want. So it's like
75, 75, or
he's losing 80. Yeah. So they could divide it however. But I think he got a phone call from Chris. I'm sorry, from Jason. Chris got a phone call. And he's seeing that, his motivation's really not there. He's really down in the dumps, and Chris feels the need to come and visit them.
Was this the phone call because work was stressing him out, or was this because she was screaming he said that she was going off on him?
No, that's later. That's later.
It happened a couple of times.
It happened a couple of times. But there was a point where Chris, and this is within the first half of the 90 days. So 45 days in, Chris is like, I didn't think I'd have to go visit them, but I'm going to have to. And they actually do an early weigh-in at this point.
That's right, a 45-day weigh-in.
A 45-day weigh-in. And we see that, I think it was Jason... Wait, am I saying? Yes. Jason was feeling like he wasn't seeing the results, and he was just not motivated. And I think Chris was seeing that. And so Chris came in to kind of prove to them, let's weigh you in and see what you've actually already accomplished, because they didn't feel like they were physically seeing it.
And I could kind of see it. Like, there was some definition in their faces.
Yes, he could see it. Jason was saying he could see it in Rachel, but he wasn't seeing it in himself.
That was just something psychologically with him going on.
It's been something psychologically with this guy for the entire episode for the most part.
Which we forgot to mention that they did get an incentive if they lost the weight.
Oh, that's right.
A trip to New York for the family where he proposed to Rachel, which is really nice, where Jason and Rachel first at the Empire State Building.
At the Empire State Building. Yes. But that's if they hit their 90-day weigh-in.
If they, the 90 days, 150
pounds. At this 45-day weigh-in, it's kind of cool because then they got to see where they stand. And Jason was at 321, so he had already lost 41 pounds, and Rachel was at 251. She had lost 39. So together they had already lost 80 pounds. So they, at their halfway mark, were already more than halfway over their goal.
Yes.
So I think that was kind of a little confidence boost that they were saying, okay, we're actually doing this. We're on trend to kind of hit that mark. So Chris stays there for a little bit. He exercises with them, which I really liked this part of the show because Chris takes them running and the kids are riding their bike. Yeah. And so their job was to kind of keep up with their kids. Yeah. Then he has Jason and Rachel basically running lines at the park while their kids are just on the playground playing. And for me, I thought it was really great to see them doing these kinds of activities because they have 2 5-year-olds. Yeah. This is what they're going to have to do, you know, and it also encourages a healthy lifestyle in their 2 children.
For the kids.
You know, they're getting their kids outside and playing while they're exercising right along with them. So I thought this was just a really great move on Chris's part strategically on how to kind of show them that they can continue working out, not sacrificing time with their kids.
Yes, and there's something important to teach the kids while they're young to stay fit, exercise, be outside, be kids, have fun, but stay healthy.
I think, too, with parents that struggle with their own weight loss, you know, a lot of times it's like, I have 3 kids, I have this and I have that. And you don't always think to get your family involved in it. Like, let's get outside and play with the kids. Even if your kids, you know, range in age, like what can we do as a family? Family baseball game, family this, like family bike ride. Like what can we do with our kids? Make them do it. I don't care if they're not happy about it or they complain. They'll be happy about it one day, I'm sure.
I mean, those kids had so much energy. They were running around all the time.
Well, they're 5, so it's different. But, I mean, they want to get out. Hopefully.
Which was sad in the beginning. They couldn't even run around. Rachel and Jason couldn't run around with the kids because they had no energy and their weight wouldn't allow them to, you know, move around as much. So at this point, they were able to, you know, kick some butt.
I know. They were doing good.
Keep up with the kids. They did kick butt in that 90-day challenge. They did.
Yeah. Well, and then at this point, Chris says, oh, so Rachel, you remember that mud run you mentioned? Well, turns out there's one in your city that we are going to do this week.
We got to do one.
We'll talk about that later. But Rachel was kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. But you know what? She was all for it. Whereas Jason, they kind of had to coax him into it a little bit.
He kept saying, I'm not that guy. That bothered me. What guy are you?
Exactly. What do you want to be?
I love how Chris...
Who are you? What are you saying?
Chris never cursed so much as he did in this episode. I've never heard him curse. It was like beep right before. Beep, beep, beep.
I kind of loved it.
He was getting angry. But I was like, what guy are you? If you're not this guy who's working out with your family, what guy are you?
If you're not this guy, then you are that very guy that you keep saying you hate so much. Yeah. And is that who you want to be? Or do you want to be this guy?
I love when Chris broke it down and said, you're going to be this guy. The one who's changing his life.
Yeah.
Right
now.
And
I liked Chris said, I'm not going to go easy on him, you know, because of his emotional state. He's like, I'm not going to go easy on him. I'm going to push him, you know, as so hard until he believes that he can do it.
He didn't want to push him to the point where he retreated because Chris is good that he could see that if he pushed him too hard, yelled too much, he would just close down. So it's good.
So in this mud run, we see them tackling hurdles. We see them climbing over walls.
Running through fire.
Running through fire.
I've never seen that in a mud
Jumping
run.
through fire, really. At least they weren't walking on. I don't know if I could walk on fire. Maybe I could.
No.
I can never say never.
It's a mud run. Why would you walk through fire in a mud run?
I don't know. Why not? And then they, of course, trek through the mud. And it was just a really great moment to see them actually get through it. And there was a time getting over that wall that Chris, he was scared. He's like, you know, I would hate to put Jason in a position where he can't actually achieve
do it after his wife did it. Like Rachel was able to get over it.
Yeah.
Get over that wall and get to the bottom.
Because I mean, imagine how disappointed he would be if he actually couldn't do it. But of course he could, and he did, and it was just kind of a great moment for all of them.
It really was.
So then we see them at their 90-day weigh-in, the moment of truth. And we see Ryan, who weighs in at 215, and
Jason weighs in at 215.
No. Rachel, who weighs in at 215, Jason at 276. But before we get too deep into this 90-day weigh-in, we have a phone call. Hello?
Hello there.
Hi, is this Ryan?
It is Ryan.
Ryan, I am so happy to have you on the phone. For those of you guys who are tuning in right now, this is Ryan, the contestant from last week's episode. Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. I just want to start off by just saying, hey, thank you guys for this amazing opportunity. I got to check out your commentary last week, and it was amazing. I just appreciate the support. So thank you guys so much for this great opportunity.
Oh, no, thank you, first of all, for staying up so late. Ryan is in Wisconsin, and it's like 12:30 a.m. over there right now.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. You were so inspirational. I was blown away.
Yes, we were. I mean, we want to thank you, of course, for joining us, and also, you know, for sharing your story and putting it out there and being a part of the show, because I'm sure in the last week you've gotten a lot of attention from a lot of people that are inspired by your story.
I have, but, you know, it's been an amazing thing, and yeah, I did something that's great, but anybody could do that, and to have people come up and say, I'm impacted by you and your story, it's been humbling.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so many people there might be that temptation to get a big head, but I know where I was a year ago, and it was a mindset and something had to change. And, you know, it wasn't just what I did. I had a great support staff. I mean, my family was amazing. Chris was amazing. You know, I had a lot of close friends that helped me out through this process. So that transformation you saw wasn't just me. It was a bigger team. And, you know, they couldn't get the FaceTime like I got. And so for me, I was just determined to, you know, make everybody proud. You know, so at the end of my show, they said, that's somebody I want to be like, and they made me proud, and I'm glad I helped them like I did.
That's amazing. I'm curious though, how long, just on the turnaround time of this production, because we know that you do this for a full year. So how long has it been since you actually weighed in?
My final weigh-in was May 21st, so a little over a month now,
so
I guess.
Really recent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And so how have you been doing since, in turn, like, you know, from what you weighed then, how have you been in terms of keeping it off so far?
Well, you know, for me, like where I was when I started this journey, I knew that when I was successful, and not if I was successful, when I was successful, because I was ready to change, and nothing was going to get in my way. That I was, and as I started transforming, like the more confidence I got, like I was never going to give that back up. So in my mind, like I know that Chris was there for the show, but I can't rely on him. I have to rely on myself to make this change. And, you know, so I was determined that I was never going to get above a certain number. And for me, like I'm on top of it. And, you know, it's been a month and I'm right where I want to be. I mean, The View just aired. I was on there, and, you know, you saw me. I was still looking good. And
Yes, you are.
You were.
It was. Thank you. Well, it was just one of those things, like I'm determined and I'm thinking ahead. I want to be proactive about it and not get myself in situations where, you know, I'm worried about how I look, or, you know, and say, how did I get here? It's thinking about, I'm never going to get there. So the moment it gets questionable, I'm done, and I'm back on track. And, you know, I have an amazing support system at home. Like I said, you know, one thing that show doesn't really show a lot about is our at-home trainers. We all get an at-home trainer, and my trainer has become my best friend. I'm still in contact. Like, we work out every day now, and the coolest thing with that is when we first started, like, he was training me, and now I'm to the point where me and him are working out together. And I'm pushing him, and, you know, he's like, I can't believe, you know, we get in a workout, and it's like ultra competitive. We're both pushing each other, and, you know, it's awesome. And Ryan has been such an amazing part of my life, and he will be for the rest of my life as well. So
Ryan is the name of your trainer. Ryan is your at-home trainer?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, Ryan's my at-home trainer.
So Ryan.
No wonder y'all became so close.
You guys could write a book together. You guys could have a show. Ryan and Ryan. I could see it now. I could see it. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Ryan, we were so...
Yeah, and his gym that he owns has been a big part, just meeting people there, you know, CrossFit Appleton. I love them. I support them. And it's been an amazing group there as well. So they're just a huge part of my journey.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
Lina.
Ryan, we were so impressed with how positive you were from the beginning to the end. When you were going into this, what was going through your brain? Because we've seen where some of the contestants are hesitant, or you were really excited, pumped up, and you stayed positive throughout the whole process.
Your reactions to every challenge that you were given was basically, let's get her done.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay, let's get back up. When we saw you riding your bike and you fell, like, you just always had this really positive attitude, and you don't see that amongst a lot of people. Like, how did you really maintain that?
Well, definitely a big part of my positivity comes from my faith. Like, it didn't get to be portrayed as much, but, you know, I realized that I am very fortunate to even be here right now. Like, in that car accident, you know, as brutal as it looked, it was. I mean, I shouldn't be, the doctors were so blown away that I survived, and I really knew I had survived purpose, that God spared my life, and I didn't want to waste that second chance. But I didn't know how to get started. So I reached out to Chris hoping that he would respond. And, you know, and I told myself when I wrote that letter, if he ever responds, like, you are not going to let him down. You are going to take charge and own this. And, you know, thankfully he responded. And I mean, because I remember the first day he came up to me, and, you know, that day he said, I choose you. I said, can you really work with this? Can you work with a guy with one arm? And he said, listen, you are going to kill it. He said, you're an athlete, and you don't even know it yet. And from that day on, I was like, all right, you know, Chris believes in me. My family believes in me, because they were there from day one. My family was too, and they were doing things and helping out. And, like, you know, it doesn't get portrayed in the show much because it was about me and my transformation. But, you know, there were habits that were changed by my entire family. And, I mean, I came home from day one, and everything changed. And it was a 180 turnaround. So for me, it helped because I had people supporting me. And I didn't want it. And that was one thing, too, is I didn't want anybody to ever watch my show and be embarrassed that they knew me or be embarrassed that they were my family. I wanted it to be a case where, you know, people are proud of me and what I've been able to become. And like I said, it didn't hurt that I was just so appreciative, because where I'm at now, like, I don't know if I'm going to get tomorrow. Like, having your life hang in a balance like mine did, like, I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow. So I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity I have on a daily basis, and I'm not going to blow it. And this was just a stage of my life where that was what was what was in my way at the time, the obstacle, and I was going to run through it. I wasn't going to try, you know, walk past it or walk around it. Like, I was just going to barrel through it.
Right. You mentioned, you know, having the second chance at life, and we see you in the episode being faced with the possibility of having a brain tumor. And, I mean, that was such a frightening moment, obviously for you, but for the audience as well. What was your thoughts in that? Because, I mean, we definitely saw you, you know, take that hard. You really, you know, kind of beaten down. And I can imagine, as somebody that's already been through something so tragic, then to be faced with this new possibility, I mean, you're probably thinking the world is down on you, you know, and like, here I go again, here's another challenge. How did you, I mean, obviously, thank God you didn't have that brain tumor, but in that time when it was a question, you know, what was going through your head? Like, how were you planning to kind of pull through that?
Well, the first thing I thought was, and this is why I really broke down, is I thought, did my second chance die out before I even got the chance to go? Because, I mean, that was literally one of the first days I was in, you know, California. I found out I was on the show, and the first thing they tell me is I have a brain tumor. And, you know, and what really scared me was the potential of brain surgery. You know, because there's some stuff that can feel naturally, but when Dr. Shack threw out the word, you know, surgery, it scared me to death. And I just thought, like, did my chance already end? You know, and it wasn't even, you know, part of my story is I didn't want to just change myself. I wanted to impact people and show people what's possible. And I'm like, did I lose that chance before it even started? But one thing that I did that got me really in a good place, and, you know, this sounds crazy, but when I was going into the meeting to find out what the results were, like, I was in a good place, and I knew that no matter what happened, I was going to get through it. But I spent hours in my Bible praying and just, you know, realizing that I'm not in control of this. Like, no matter what happens, like, I can't control it. You know, my car accident, I couldn't control it. And and that's the thing with this last year. Like, the only thing I wanted to control is the things I could control. And that was my weight, what I ate, how I worked out, and that's what I can control. So why worry about things that are out of my control? And I think that really helped me this last year, because, you know, I didn't have to worry about logistics, or, I mean, one thing I talked about was my numbers, my weight loss goals. And I said, hey, I had to lose 111 pounds. That's unfair. That's one of the highest percentages. But, you know, I caught myself. I'm like, you know, this is the number I was dealt. I'm going to hit it. I mean, from very day one, another thing I talked to Chris about when I found out I was on the show is I said, Chris, I will go 444 on all my goals. I'm going to be 195. Like, that was the thing is, and I think a lot of people would be, you know, say I'm cocky or arrogant, but for me it was I just knew what I wanted, where I wanted to be, and I wasn't going to be happy if I wasn't there. And I feel like I let myself down, but more importantly, I feel like I let everybody else, that, you know, my family and Chris, who took a, you know, an opportunity on me, because I realized, like, if there was anybody probably that would have had a high chance of failure, it would have been me. And, you know, I know there's a lot of people that are killing for a shot at this. and would have died to be in my place. So for me, I didn't want it to be to a place where somebody said, Ryan got my spot and didn't earn it, or he didn't deserve that spot. I wanted people to say that, hey, he got that spot and he did well with it, and now I can be inspired to transform my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you talk about, you know, controlling the things that you can, and one of the things we actually saw you really struggle with in the episode was getting enough calories, getting enough nutrition. So, you know, that could be one thing that you could control, but you really struggled with that. Is that something? And I think it was actually one of our YouTube viewers who commented on our podcast from last week who mentioned that they watched you on The View and they saw that you attributed that struggle to your addiction to the scale, which I can completely relate to something like that. And I think that when you're addicted to the scale and you're addicted to a number and you're really paranoid about hitting it, I feel like that is a hard mentality to break. You know, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how did you really get past
and get your
that?
nutrition on track?
Well, definitely. I mean, the one thing for me is you know, obviously you saw in the beginning opening clip is that I didn't have a lot of success in life. You know, I didn't have experiences or opportunities because, you know, I spent most the year before, you know, literally from the accident up until the point Chris shows me in my parents' house. You know, I was sleeping during the day, awake at night. And so I had no life. And for me, you know, the more weight I lost, the more confident I got. And being a 23-year-old guy who has no purpose in life, like, it destroyed me. I mean, it was tearing me from the inside. And so for me, I didn't want to go back to that place. And the more weight I lost, the better I felt. You know, for me, I wanted to set high standards for myself because sometimes it's so easy to, okay, well, if I hit it, you know, if I hit this goal, it's amazing, it's great, but if I don't, at least I lost 30 pounds. And for me, like, I wasn't satisfied if I didn't hit 195. I wanted to go 4 for 4 on all my goals. And, you know, because for the first time in my life, I want to be a man of my word. You know, before I started the show, I wasn't. I could care less if I followed through on my word. And now, like, I want to take ownership. And when I say something, like, Ryan is going to do it. And he's going to follow through on his commitments. And that's something I didn't do. So for me, I felt like I had to do whatever I could to get those numbers. And, you know, I was getting the results. And another big part of my reasoning for, you know, not getting the calories in, it wasn't necessarily like I'm going to cheat into scale. It was I was just so on the go. I mean, I was working out 4 or 6 hours a day sometime, and I was on. And then not only that, I was coaching my football team. You know, they were a big part of my story. You know, I was meeting with people, talking with people. You know, so I was constantly on the go, and I just grabbed what I could. And one thing that really hurt me is, you know, why I was coming up and so calories short is because I'd leave for the morning in a workout, and I'd be on the road doing this, doing that. Like I said, practice. I'd run from my workouts right to practice coaching the kids. And, you know, I'd get home, it'd be 8 o'clock at night. And, you know, the old Ryan would have binged. He would have stopped at fast food along the way. In my mind, I wasn't going to make up those calories because if I even attempted to do that, I was going to go the other way. So for me, it was a big victory. I know maybe the people, the viewers didn't understand that, but that's why for me it was such a big deal because I was actually breaking my addiction to food. And I was able to overcome that. And that's something that, you know, and it's a unique situation because if you watch the show, most people go that opposite where they finally get to a point where like, I can't do this anymore. I got to eat all this food. And that's why for me, I have no doubt in my mind, like I'm going to be able to maintain this because I know how good it feels to be where I'm at in life and stuff and living life. I mean, just I'm finally living a young 24-year-old guy's life. I mean, now someday I'll be able to go on dates and, you know, meet girls and all that kind of fun stuff that I didn't do up until this year.
I bet you've got a lot of girls calling you right now. I would imagine.
You know, I'm just waiting for the right girl. I know God has a girl out there for me, and I'm just waiting to see. And, you know, opportunities are going to present themselves. I mean, I'm even thinking down the road what's next. I mean, the world's open. And one thing I'm really, you know, it's cool because I was on The View and being able to meet Sherry Shepherd and Donald Driver, part of my show. Like, I think why not go for Dancing with the Stars next? I mean, there's just all those crazy possibilities.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. I love it.
Do you still stay into contact with Donald Driver and Clay Matthews from meeting them on the show?
Well, definitely Donald. I've done a lot of different things since the show has aired. I mean, Donald came to my finale. That's a unique thing.
So sweet.
Yeah, actually, I got to go out and hang with him. He does a local charity softball game in my hometown, and I got to hang out with him and do some stuff with him as well. And I mean, I'm hoping to continue that relationship. And not only that, like just build some more relationships with some of the other Packers and, you know, because they're all young guys. I mean, it's so crazy to see just these are all people, I put them so long in my life, I put them on a pedestal. But Donald, if there's anybody that can be cocky and arrogant and not have time for people, it's Donald Driver, and Clay Matthews. Those guys hit it, but they made time to come and surprise me. And, Donald fulfilled his obligation and did the bike ride with me. He didn't have to come to my finale. He didn't have to bring me that jersey, but he said, you inspired me, and I want to be part of it. And that was even a big thing when I did that workout with Clay Matthews. And he said, listen, you may be inspired by me, but you don't even know what you're inspiring, how much you're inspiring us. I mean, it was so cool because after the show, I mean, I'm getting these tweets from, guys like Randall Cobb, who is, the up-and-coming wide receiver from the Packers, and he's saying, like, Ryan, I was so touched and impacted by your story. And, and those are guys that I grow up and look at and say, wow, they're the heroes. But to hear them say, like, I've inspired them, like, that's the best feeling in the world.
Gosh, I love that.
We want to know what's next for you, Ryan. Like, you've accomplished all your goals. Yeah. Hit them out the park. What's next for you now? Well,
I mean, if Dancing with the Stars listening, I would totally give that a shot. I'm ready to work hard for that. But, if those opportunities don't present themselves, like, I'm definitely excited. There, a local school, UW Green Bay, has reached out to me, and I'm planning on going there in the fall. Like I said, if things don't happen anywhere else. Because for me, I don't want to put my trust in what the show has given me because, I just am a person. Yeah, I lost a lot of weight, but, I want to take ownership in something, and I don't want to use, the platform I have to make myself better. Like, I want to actually, just like this last year, like, there were so many times where I could have taken an easy way out and just got this or that. I mean, I want to encourage people and speak to people. If Lord willing, that's an opportunity, I'll go for it. But, I want to create something, an opportunity for myself, just like I did that 195 and getting down to 193. So for me, like, nobody can take a degree away from me. And, and I'm excited to do it locally in my hometown, and just be able to be a part of the community, because that was a big thing in my episode. It was such a community-driven episode. I mean, to know, all the people that came out to my finale, like the biggest finale they've had, one of the biggest finales that people came out, and it was a late-night finale, too, to have the people come out there and just be supportive and encouraging. And, it was just a special night, and it just reiterated to me how much this town means to me, and that, I'm not going to go Mr. Hollywood. I get that joke a lot now. People are like, oh, you've gone Mr. Hollywood and, and stuff. And no, like, I'm still the same Ryan, and, I'm actually doing this interview live from Wisconsin.
I know, at 12:30.
And your PJs probably.
I know, that's amazing. Are you tired? I would be tired.
Hey, you sound
jazzed.
I'm so excited to be speaking to you guys. So I'm energized. I'm pumped and ready to go.
I just love his energy.
You said a few things that really stood out to me. Like, you were talking about how you at 23, you were this person that had no purpose and this and that. And I kept thinking in my head, but you really did have a purpose. And I feel like now you're at a place where you've recognized that. But do you think that, especially when we saw the beginning of your story, do you feel like you really identified with the fact that you lost your arm? Like, did you feel like you had this disability and you feel like that kind of defined you and that just made you feel like you couldn't do anything? And if that was how you felt, how did you get past that? Was it just one accomplishment that pushed you on to the next? I'm just curious how you identified with that.
Well, for me, I think definitely one of the things, I mean, instantly after losing the arm, for me, I felt like, I was kind of, I like to use the word damaged goods, like I didn't think I'd ever find a wife after that, a girl that I would ever look past my imperfections. And, that was a big holdback for me, because big part of my life is the whole, I have a passion for spending the rest of my life with some special girl someday. And after the accident, I didn't ever see that happening. But, more so after I got involved in the process and stuff like that, I realized, too, that I was using my arm as an excuse. Like, I can't do this because I'll fall and break my arm, or, this or that. And, so that was another big obstacle. But really now, seeing after I've lost the weight and the confidence I've gotten, like, all along it was my weight. I was afraid of falling off a bike because of my, I told Chris it was because of my missing arm, but it was because of my weight and, that balance and stuff like that. So it's really kind of been cool. And it's been amazing to see as the weight came off. And that's kind of what really helped with that transition, is that as the weight came off, the more confident it came.
Right.
At month 6, I lost 172 pounds. I was down to 232 starting the year at 410. I mean, if I would have, if you had asked me before I got on a show and before I threw out the crazy 195 number and say, listen, Ryan, you're going to get down to 232. You know, I would have said, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
You know, but I just had a goal in mind that I wanted to get, and you know, but it was as it was coming more and more, and you know, I think when I first even threw the number out, the 195, like I didn't know if I was really going to achieve it, but it felt like a number that was on my heart, and I'm like, I'm going to do everything in my power to get it. You know, I mean, I remember even Chris pulling me aside, and he said, you know, Ryan, nobody calls out a number like that. Like it's going to be amazing if you get there. And I said, Chris, like I'm going to do everything in my power. You know, I'm not going to, you know, have an up thing where you look back and say, did you do, you know, why didn't I get this number? It's because I made this mistake or that mistake. And so for me, it was really great to see how, and amazing to see as I transformed along the way, my missing arm, you know, that excuse was obsolete in the end. And, you know, the confidence I have now, like I'm living life and being able to go and put myself out there and just have experiences that I've never had before. I mean, I've had more experience in the last, like, you know, 4 months than I've had in 23 years.
Yeah. Speaking of experience, I have a question for you. You, in the episode, we, you know, see Chris trying to challenge you to do this bike ride from LA to San Diego. And I think when he first brought on the challenge to you, you looked kind of like hesitant, but you still didn't refuse it right away. And then I did think it was really big of you to actually, you know, sit down and address Chris and tell him that you didn't think you were ready for it. We then saw you ride 43 miles in honor of your uncle, which was, I mean, amazing to say the least. But now, you know, now that we saw you ride those 43 miles, do you think a bike ride at that distance is something you might want to set out to do?
Well, the honest, you know, when Chris first told me, you know, the 100-mile bike ride from San, like I was not going to tell him no. I mean, that was one thing also I told him. I said, listen, Chris, you'll never hear me say I can't or I won't. I'll do whatever you want because I trust you. And you know, obviously Chris has done this before. He's not going to hurt anybody or, you know, it's just that mental block. And so many times, like people are holding themselves back from accomplishing amazing things. And you know, I think it was good because sitting down and having that conversation with Chris, and you know, that conversation, that candid conversation, happened because of a fall, you know, even worse than the one you guys saw in the episode. There were a couple. I was just practicing on my own. One thing you saw a lot is I did a lot of things on my own. Like I didn't need Chris by my side every time I wanted to do something, and that's why he had no idea about this bike ride, this fall I took. And you know, it scared me because I definitely had a little issue with it, and I was having headaches and stuff like that. And so I'm just like, wow, this could, if I fall like this again, like I could break my arm, I could do this, I could do that. And, you know, and it wasn't the fear of breaking my arm, but it was the fear of breaking my arm and it locking me up for the year, you know, not being able to get that 195. And that's what I said to him. I said, hey, Chris, honestly, for me, I want to get this 195, and I don't want anything to prevent that. And you know, it was big for me because it was the first time in my life that I stepped up for myself and spoke how I felt, and that was big. And you know, so I wanted more time. And Chris, being gracious he granted that. And you know, I think also too a big thing Chris realizes that whole 100 miles from San Diego to LA was a little bit overdone. I think you know, at the time it sounded great and you know, really awesome, but having one arm to do that is pretty tough. And I'm thankful that we're able to come to that conclusion because for me, in December of last year, my uncle passed away. And that was one thing I remember praying when I started this year is I said, I don't want to lose any family members because I don't know how I'd handle that. And that happened in December. And I remember like going out for my weigh-in and, you know, Chris really, he kind of knew, but he really didn't know the details and what had happened. I mean, I just sent him a text and I say, hey, Chris, my uncle passed. And this is right before I come out. And I'm just like, you know, I have an idea. I want to talk to you about it. And so when I shared this on camera with him, doing the 43-mile tribute ride, like that was big because what we had actually, the conclusion we're going to do is we're going to do a marathon on the bike, is the bike ride that we're going to do. I did a marathon this year, and that, unfortunately, that didn't make my episode, but I thought it'd be cool to do originally a marathon on a bike and running a marathon. So that was the plan after we kind of realized the 100 miles was over, you know, too much. So then from there, you know, I said, Chris, and I remember going into that meeting, and I said, you know, I want to make this bike ride personal for me. And I know I want to give my uncle a tribute. And I know how big of a challenge the bike ride was for me. And if I could put those two together, it was going to be a big part of my episode because I wanted people to see how amazing my uncle was and that, you know, it was a driving force. And phase 3 was for my uncle. Like that was what got me there and motivated me. And So it was a perfect scenario. I mean, doing 1 mile for every year he was born. And it was, honestly, when I said it, I was like, that's a lot of miles, like 43 miles. Like, I remember sitting in my room a couple times and thinking, can I do this? But I'm like, no, you got this. Like, there wasn't, it wasn't just a coincidence that came to me, and it was tough. Like, it was honestly, a lot of people think doing a marathon is tough, but this bike ride was way harder. Doing that with one arm, and, most people think it's possible, but it wasn't. It's possible, but it wasn't easy. And I'm in a place in my life where I don't want to take the easy way out. If I have two opportunities and one's an easier way out, like, I'm not going to do it. And there's no reason. I could have did the 26 miles. And as you saw in the episode, like, I was cruising at mile 26. Where it got hard was mile 30 and 32 when the temperature started to drop. I mean, I was shaking, I was shivering, and then I had that fall, and my knees scraped up, and I'm just, at that moment, if there was ever a breakdown moment this last year, it wasn't there. I'm just like, I was sick, and I was just hurting, and I'm like, I don't even know how far I can go. And thankfully Donna was there, thankfully Chris was there, my mom, my mom and my dad and my sister were there, and we just kind of did a little powwow, and I said, I got this. I have to do this to honor my uncle, and so that's definitely been a big part of it. So.
And you definitely did it. It was amazing. It was amazing to watch you, and you really, I mean, you conquered that. And I mean, you've just had a huge amount of success, which has absolutely been fantastic to watch. And it's been so inspiring to hear about it and to see you on The View. And we're really, really looking forward to more that's going to come from you. I feel like you're going to continue this, and you're going to continue to motivate people. Before we let you go, I want to make sure that we also know where we can find you. I know that you have a Facebook page. I know that you're on Twitter. Can you tell our viewers where they can find you?
Absolutely. First of all, I have a website. If you want to, you can get a hold of me on there. There's contact information if people are interested in booking me to speak or just talk or whatever. So that's basically RyanSawlsville.com, plain and simple. And then on Facebook, I'm at Ryan Sawlsville Extreme Weight Loss, or Extreme Makeover Weight Loss Edition.
Awesome.
3. And then I'm on Twitter, RyanS_EMWLE.
Awesome.
So any avenue, I mean, I'm on that all the time. I'm responding back. I mean, because you guys, the fans, are what is truly inspiring to me. And, I just want people to know that, I have Chris Powell, and that's how I was able to do it, but you can do it on your own. Like, you're not even on your own, but you can do it with a family friend. Like, the biggest thing is it wasn't that I had Chris Powell, it was somebody that was alongside me. So I just want to encourage people to find that one person that can, encourage them, whether it's a good friend or, I mean, we saw tonight's episode how, in the end, Jason or Rachel really helped each other out and got to them where they were. And I think that was such amazing to see, because you didn't know where that could head, because that could have gone one of two ways. They could have, costed each other, or they could have gotten each other to the end. And, they both hit their goals. They looked amazing. And, so you just see the power in pairs. And make it a fun group effort. I mean, go out there, find some friends, go to the gym, make dinner. That's the thing. Like, it can be fun. Healthy eating can be fun. It can taste good. Working out can be fun. Have those workout parties. But start small, too. Like, I didn't lose 217 pounds in a day. It was over time. And in my book, honestly, I lost 217 pounds, but anybody that loses, 30, 40 pounds, they're a hero in my book, because they're doing that on their own, fighting strong. So honestly, the people that watch my show are the real fans to me, and I'm inspired by you guys just as much as you were inspired by me.
Awesome.
So I just also want to thank you guys for checking out this show.
No, thank you, and thank you for joining us, Ryan. I feel like we could really probably talk to you forever. Feel free to call us anytime. We're here every Tuesday, and you guys heard it. You guys heard where you can find Ryan. Continue the conversation. I mean, reach out to him if you guys need any advice. I've been to your Facebook page, and you're so motivational. So we just want to thank you so much for taking this time to talk with us. And now we know you have to go to bed.
Well, honestly, if you guys ever want me to, maybe we can do something long term, like a every week commentary, where I come in and throw out, thoughts on the show. Like, I would be all over that if that's something that you guys would want.
That would be awesome. Well, we should definitely keep in touch. And thank you again, Ryan, for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan.
And we will be in touch with you, and as will all these fans, I'm sure. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, he's amazing.
Awesome.
He's amazing.
Awesome.
I can't even finish our episode. I can't even finish the current episode because he definitely had so much amazing stuff to say, and I feel like I could talk to him forever. He's just completely on fire.
You can tell he is motivated and excited about life.
We're gonna have to continue the conversation on YouTube. Comment on iTunes if you want to download, subscribe to us. It comes back to us, and while you're there, make sure to also download Serial Buddies either on iTunes or on serialbuddies.com. Okay, and we're gonna leave you here. You can find me on Twitter at @low_Vias. Lina?
You can find me at just Lina Green on Twitter and on Facebook.
And we'll continue the conversation on YouTube and iTunes.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.